Hello, what is up, beautiful people? This is not Scorch the Fears. I just love that intro. But we got Tyler Wanaka, Mahmoud Issa here today. And today we're going to be discussing how to do market research and how to figure out what is your deal going to sell for in your market, right? Because I would say understanding the different market complexities in every single market or intricacies is like one of the hardest things for newer investors, newer wholesalers, of like how things change depending on the market. So I got like an expert on today, Mahmoud. He's a friend of ours, been a friend of mine for at least 3 years. I think I've known you for 3 years now, right? Like it's been around that long, maybe even, yeah, about 3 years. So people on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, go into the link in my bio. You will find my YouTube, and then you'll actually hear what we're talking about. Because if you're just on Instagram, you're just going to see me talking, and I'm barely going to do any talking in this at all. I'm just introducing it. Mahmoud is going to be dropping the fire on YouTube, so come there if you want to see this. Mahmoud, bro, thank you for doing this and willing to do a little live for my audience and Tyler and helping us out and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. Always look forward to kind of educating people in the space and kind of helping people.
Did we lose? Lost him immediately. All right. Well, Tyler,
What's up, man?
how you been doing? Until we wait for Mahmoud to come back on, what you already had a talk with Mahmoud, right? So maybe while we're waiting for him to come back, what what were like some of the insights you got when you did your one-on-one with him right now as we wait for him to come back as he figures out his internet? What were like some quick insights we can give the people?
Yeah, the main thing I got out of it was really like how, as far as the percent of ARV, how that actual process went. Oh, he's just gone.
No, I did that. I did that until he connects back because there's just no point in having his frozen face on the screen.
No, I learned a lot about like his exact process of how he finds percent.
There we go. We found him.
My internet died on me. It's such a weird time.
That was really funny. That was like perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Mahmoud, like you were saying.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to, tell people and discuss just basically help people get better at what they do in this space, in this industry, because this is often an industry that involves a lot of figuring stuff on your own and going through trends. So it's like when you have the opportunity to get help with understanding what makes a deal, that usually speeds up the process for a lot of people. So I'm very happy to be here to share that.
Love it. Awesome. So what I would say the best way to start, you can tell me if you want to start in a different way, but the best way to start would be like, all right, I'm a new wholesaler, I'm a new fix and flipper. What generally will a deal sell for? Like, how do I figure out ARV percentage, or how do I figure out like at least an idea for my market, what's different in there, maybe even the intricacies? Like I know in Florida, it's a huge thing to have wooden, it's not a wooden basement, like wooden framing,
Yeah.
something like that, right? Like how do you figure that stuff out? How do you do market research?
Right. Well, first you want to figure out if your market is an investor active market, like if it's even hot, if people are trying to buy there, um, if there's actually some substantial investor activity even occurring there, right? Because some markets have more investors actively purchasing fix and flips than other markets do. And so it's important to kind of make sure that you're in a market that's actually hot, because, if you were, let's say, operating in a market with a lot of, distressed properties, but, you know, you look at the history of recently sold flips in that area over the last 6 months, and you saw less than 100 flips being done there, then no matter how great your deal is, it's going to be very difficult to sell. So I think the most important thing is to know, and get at least some proof that you're in a market that is highly sought out, in which the fix and flip properties there are highly sought after. So That's, I'd say, the most important thing is it's a hot market. At that point, now it starts to become searching for the product that your client, which is the cash investors, are actually looking for, right? And that's going to be different in some markets over others. One major component is the ARV amount. So meaning like if like for those who don't know, the after repair value. So after like a house gets fixed up and then looks all fancy and you're about to sell it and list it, what is that number going to be? Are we talking $200,000, right? Like fancy homeowner, or like homeowners are going to move into this fancy house. Are they going to pay 200? Are they going to be willing to pay 300, 400, 500? That's going to that's going to kind of shape the way that you look at your deals. Like for instance, you look at a market like the San Francisco Bay Area where you guys operate in certain parts of the Bay Area, you will have a house that has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms inside of it. And you have people waving their money saying, hey, I'll be happy to pay 1.5 million for this, right? And when that's like the after repair value, right? When a house looks fancy, good to go, a lot of people are like, okay, here's $1.5 million. I'm ready to spend it. Other markets you go to, the most that they'll be willing to spend is, let's say, let's say certain parts of Detroit, Michigan, for instance, $85,000 on a very
you're saying I can't
property.
sell a house for 1.5 million in Detroit, Michigan? Are you saying that's not possible?
I'm saying that the demand is not there. No,
unfortunately,
because
I wonder why.
How do you actually do that? Like, how do you find that kind of info? What tools do you use, and what kind of data do you actually look at to come up with that kind of information?
Yeah, so you look at any sort of software or tools that give you access to tax record data. So that's, for instance, we use a great software called Privy that allows us to do that, to look at the recently sold properties, investor properties over the last 6 months, year, 24 months, whatever you want to look at. And you can literally pull up, and I can show you guys in a bit, you can literally pull up like, San Francisco, California, Detroit, Michigan, Tampa, Florida, and just look at the level of activity, but also the prices that each of these properties sold for, and you can start to get an idea. The reason that's important is it also impacts the strategy in terms of the types of properties you look for. For instance, in Detroit, or places where your ARVs are like close to 100,000 or less than 100,000, what happens is distressed properties actually stop being valuable. In places like the Bay Area, distressed properties are very valuable because then you can buy a house for 1.2 million, spend $200,000 on fixing it, and watch the ARV or the after repair value go up by 400,000 or 500,000, right? But a place like in Detroit, where you're gonna basically, the cost of materials would sometimes you would need to pay, like 80,000 to fix it, but the ARV is 80,000. So meaning if someone give you that house for free, you wouldn't be making any money on it. And so people don't go and fix those houses, and they don't flip them. So what happens? That's where you get abandoned homes, abandoned neighborhoods. You've got rows and rows and rows of blocks of homes that nobody wants to move into. Nobody wants to fix and flip it. But let's say, they open a shopping mall there, and they make a really nice school district, or they have big tech companies move into that part of Detroit. Now, all of a sudden, the homeowner that's waving the dollar is like, I will pay $200,000 to live next to this, in this area because it's got all of these amenities. Now, all of a sudden, investors have room. So they start opening their eyes. They get interested. They're like, okay, I'll be willing to buy, this property for like, let's say $50,000. I'll put in another 80 into it, and then sell it on the market, or get it all already, sell it for 200,000, and then profit 50 or 60K off of it, right? So the more the homeowner is willing to pay, the more the higher the price the seller can get, and also like the more feasible it is for that property to actually be flipped. That's what creates desirability. That's how you improve neighborhoods. That's how you add value. Does that kind of concept, is that hitting?
No, of course it makes sense. It
100%.
definitely makes sense.
That's kind of where
100%.
ARVs come from, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like where property value comes from. It's like,
Mahmoud is basically right now going into like literally being the Plato of after repair value and just diagnosing the theory behind it, guys. That's what we're doing right now. We're going like that into the metaphysics of where does even ARV come from. I absolutely love it. So maybe we should start here. Should we start with which market to choose based on that? Would you like to start there where we're like, maybe we should actually like see and do some market research on which market you should go into? Because I feel like that's true. There's probably a large part of the audience that chose rural Indiana because they're like, wow, these houses are only $50,000. That must make it easier, right? And there must be like an insane amount of buy and hold investors.
Or less competition.
Or less competition, which is really common.
Yep.
So would you be down, Mahmoud, to show us like how you ended up choosing Florida? Maybe that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I would love to.
If you go to do you know how to do it? If you go to the bottom, you press present and we can see your screen.
Present, share screen. Let's see, entire screen. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Actually, let me do something. Just pull up my privy here so that we can all. Okay, cool.
Because I'll be honest, you know how I chose my market, and this I feel like is how a lot of people do it, is I was just there, right? Like I think there are certain people who like also just choose it because you're there. Honestly, I'm fairly sure that's why Tyler chose his market too, was he just lived in Sacramento. Like literally we're just like, all right, well, I guess that's what's easier. So maybe Mahmoud, not saying that it was a mistake. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars in Sacramento and Bay Area. So is Tyler. But it will be curious to see like what market should you choose, and how Mahmoud chose his, because he went first to Atlanta and now he's in Florida. It'll be cool to see like how you're doing that market research. So this is
right.
awesome.
Yeah. So can you guys see my screen here with the map?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said before, you want to look at the prices that homes are selling for, right? And you usually, if you've got, houses that are, that are being like renovated homes, or like with the prices of houses are like in 80,000, like less than 100,000, those aren't going to be the best just because you can't really fix and flip those. The only times I'd go into those areas are going to be, if the rents are exceedingly high, in which case those are buy and hold plays, but we'll dive deeper into it. So let's take, for instance, a market like Denver, Colorado. Okay.
Great market.
And so let's kind of dive right in over here. So I have Privy. I'm using Privy over here. I got the deals lighting green. I'm going to click on the fix and flip, go down to my filter, look at the properties that were sold in the last 12 months. And we can come out and just kind of take a look at this market here from just kind of like a bird's eye view.
Yeah, I realize that the Denver County might be better because you're right now, if you just do Denver the city, you're just getting like, yeah, that's more like accurate.
Yeah, so I'm trying to kind of just allow you guys to see the shape of your market. Like what exactly is your market?
I think you need to click on fix and flip again. Yeah.
Fix and flip. Yeah, cool. So every market, a lot of times they have their own shapes, right? And this is an interesting one because certain markets, you're going to have a lot of desirability for homes that are in that particular, let's say, metro city location, but also maybe 10, 15 miles away from that city center, right? So, and I'll show you Tampa, I'll show you Atlanta. In Atlanta, you're going to have very high desirability, even 15 to 20 miles away from Atlanta city center. And that just gives you a larger pool of properties to look for. So let's take Denver, for example, this Denver, Colorado area. You can see that most of the activity here is not happening in the east or west of Denver, Colorado, right? So you're not gonna, if someone sends you a property in Avonvale or Gypsum over here in the west, or Glenwood Springs, Carbondale, doesn't seem like really anything to look at. And same thing for the east. Like I'm looking at this right now, and I really wouldn't touch anything east of Denver or west of Denver. What I care about based on this data is Fort Collins all the way south to Pueblo, right? And I can look at that directly. Sorry, just my MacBook acting up. Directly on here, and I can see that you got Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, Boulder, and Fort Collins. That's where all the action is. That's where, if you're working this market, you're going to be looking for deals. Okay, but I
Mahmoud,
would
can I interrupt you
know.
for a second, just for 5
Please.
seconds? I just want to say, I've been in Denver now for 6 months. You literally hit it right on the head. I don't know how much you know about Denver. I bet you know almost nothing. Have you ever done a deal here in your life?
Never. All I know is what I've noticed in the last
Literally,
25
he
seconds.
hit it on the head of where you actually like get deals done. It's Fort
Took me
Collins,
25
Denver,
seconds to
Colorado
figure that out.
Springs, and Pueblo are the
Pueblo.
4 cities where you actually get deals done in Colorado. The fact that he
Nothing
just was like,
else.
yeah, so by the way, it's these 4 cities, and like I just know it after 10 minutes of research, guys. He doesn't know Denver at all, right?
Nope.
I'm impressed because I just found out about Fort Collins maybe like 3 weeks ago. Literally, I found out like, where the hell is Fort Collins? And then Eric is just like, oh yeah, Fort Collins is a great area. Like people buy there, right? And Mahmoud just named all of the 4 primary cities within 5 minutes. So
yeah,
that was wild. Anyways,
Thanks,
that was insane. I don't think people understand how insane that was. Just in
yeah.
and of itself.
And so it's kind of like, you can usually trust yourself in this market because it looks like a line, right? That you stay within this vertical line, you're going to be good in terms of being able to find buyers for it. Like this isn't one of those markets where you want to really get into the heavy suburbs. Like, you know, in Atlanta, for instance, if you were to come all the way out to a place like Oak Creek, you would have a lot of recently sold properties. People would be buying in Oak Creek. Literally all of these random towns, I just wouldn't touch them. It's not something that you really care about. So just stay within the line of Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, even Lakewood over here. I think this says Lakewood, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and you're good to go. So that's basically doing this exercise allows you to see kind of the shape of your market. So that's why Privy is really cool. And it allows you just to kind of dig in and see where our investor is going to be buying. Now, if you wanted to basically kind of go ahead and take a look at which of these do you want to start in, you can back up a little and see that a lot of the action is happening, you know, down here. Actually, that's not a perfect view, but like you can really start anywhere. I mean, this is kind of like the highest number I see over here. It looks like there's a lot going on. Yeah, and so Pueblo would be kind of a nice little place to start. You could also do Denver, but if you wanted to kind of just start in one. Now I get a chance to look.
Why Pueblo? Like what made it any different from Pueblo to Denver? Like any
just
reason?
property concentration. Like I see a 146 over here. I see a 56. I see a 59. I see a 64, but I see a 228. Just for good luck, I picked the one that's most. I could totally have gone over here.
But wasn't the most Denver?
The most is.
Or am I tripping?
Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry. I was zooming in over Colorado Springs and Pueblo.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood
No,
so that
you're
when
right,
other
you're
people
right.
are doing it, what he's doing right now is he's looking for the
is
one
Denver.
with the most fix and flips here. So I just want to make sure at least we understood what you were doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so the most in this case would be Denver. So you would come over here, and you would just essentially just pick, you know, whatever, and you would start doing just looking at some of the activity over here. So like for instance, you can come and you can take a look. You can see the general, like I can already look at this and be like, all right, so ARV is, you're not going to find any renovated properties that are selling for 300,000 or 350,000 in this market. It's just not a thing. I can already look at that because everything that I see in front of me ranges from 350 upwards all the way up to like 800K. And then there are some like super expensive areas that go in the couple millions. But I just kind of can get a feel for where the ARVs are. And this is usually a pretty good sign, right? When you have a concentrated metropolitan area with ARVs that are above, 300,000, and this is way above, then usually that means the distressed properties, can actually be priced low enough to where after you factor in cost of repairs, an investor will be able to sell it and actually make a profit. So what I like to do at this stage is, I like to come in, look at any of these properties. So let's pick this one over here. And I can come in and I can look and see, make sure it's renovated, right? Sure is. Then I can go down and I can see, all right, let's just make sure it's flipped. It got purchased originally by the investor in March of 2022, and it got sold on the end of October 2022. So this person definitely didn't buy it, live in it, and leave. This person
That looked like he flipped
it.
nature too. Like
Yeah,
the nature flipped.
yeah, literally. So yeah, did a lot with it, and you can kind of go ahead and see, right, like over here, that you've got that he bought it for 367,500, sold it for 545, and so overall he was in it at 67% of ARV, right? And so what you can do is, if you guys kind of just want to do a little bit of market analysis, if you're ever curious, you can just create a little Excel sheet or a Google sheet and just put like the name of an address, and then maybe just put like the before price, the after price, and then the percentage of ARV, and then just start looking at any sort of trends in percentage of ARV, if percentage of ARV is something that that you want to use as a metric. But for me, I personally just I like to gather that data because I like to analyze it and work on it. But I look and I see percentage of ARV, but you can also look at gross profit, which is this number minus this number. So you can go and say 545 minus 367.5, right? That's going to be a little bit under, $200,000 is basically how much. That's the gross profit, right? So you buy it at this price, sell it. That's the gross profit in the middle. That's also a good metric as well. But
so how do you use those metrics, Mahmoud? Like real quick, I'm going to take away the screen just so we can talk again. How do you use these metrics, right? Like, how do I use 67% of ARV? We were talking before this. You said you actually weren't even that much of a fan of a percent of ARV. So
right.
What should I start getting Excel file sheet and getting addresses and writing down 67%? What are like the actual steps you think I should start taking? Let's say I'm choosing Denver. I did what you saw. I saw the areas. And now what should I do? Should I start recording addresses?
Right.
What would you recommend to somebody?
Right. So before I kind of prescribe and say, in order to value property, you take a specific percentage of ARV, or it needs to have a minimum gross profit of this amount. Let's kind of just talk about the factors that influence the ARV. So, or the percentage of ARV. So the percentage of ARV, the reason it's not always the best to go off of that when valuing a property is because it depends on too many variables to really be sure. So for instance, like percentage of ARV depends on it depends on the square footage of the property, the location, and also the condition of the property, right? So for instance, let's take kind of both extremes, right? Let's say you have like a tiny house in Denver that needs just a light cosmetic rehab in one of the most most desirable parts of Denver, right? So light rehab, light cosmetic in one of the most desirable parts of Denver, and it's a small house, right? So let's say, for instance, and I can I wish I could be able to share a whiteboard here. That would be really cool. Trying to see, but I don't have to if I can't. I could.
I don't know if that's possible. I think you'd have to like bring up a whiteboard on your screen and then share your screen.
Yeah, I could. However, just share like a spreadsheet here. Let's just do that. I think that'll be fun.
If I know
okay.
Mahmoud, there's one thing he loves, and that's spreadsheets.
I do like spreadsheets. All right. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Let's go. Hang on here. Hang on. I like trying to find like the tab that I'm using. So I'm like, so many tabs. Okay. I will stop sharing until I find the tab. But it is worth the wait, you guys. I found this. Okay. Found it. Found the tab. Yeah. All right.
So while you're looking, just real quick, like, so obviously if like it's cosmetic rehab and it's in a really good area, right? It's going to be different. Did you just stop using percent of ARV is what you're telling us? I'm curious.
Well, check this out. Do you see the spreadsheet now?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's take the 3 different factors. So let's go condition. And I need everybody who's listening to understand this, because trust me, percentage of ARV is not going to be very reliable for you. It's one way. It's a comparative tool, but don't depend on it on it specifically. But it is a good tool. But let me show you. Like for instance, let's say you have 2 properties, right? Property 1 and property 2. You have the condition of the property is, you have a light cosmetic, you have 1,000 square feet, and you have, highly desirable area. And then condition 2, you have a full rehab, not necessarily a gut, but like a needs everything situation. Let's go 2,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet. And then let's say the location is developing community. Okay. So just Jonah, real quick, tell me kind of, let's take, your market of, the Denver area, for example. Imagine just like one of the most desirable neighborhoods of Denver, the most desirable areas of Denver, and just a tiny house, or like 1,000 square feet. How much would you say the ARV would be on something like this?
Depending on the area.
Yeah,
It
best
depends
area, like it's a really good area.
The best area, that could be like $1 million too, right? Like if you're doing like the best area of Denver, like you can get houses that are worth like upwards of $1 million. If you're like in
I'd
Cherry
say like,
Creek,
give me
or
like the 75th percentile of greatness, not like the
probably
top
like
2%.
700-800K then, 700-800K. Denver can get expensive.
So let's say 800K for a 1,000 square foot property.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go and we'll say, all right, so the ARV, $800,000. All right, and then and so, all right, so we have, and let's say for a light cosmetic rehab in Denver, what are we talking about? $25 per square foot?
Something like that. I use percent of ARV, so like I don't worry about price per square foot, so I don't even think of that. But probably
let's say
something like that.
It's gonna be around 25 to 30, but let's just say $25 per square foot. $25 per square foot.
Sure.
And then let's say so what we can do here is we can take kind of the universal formula, and we can say, all right, so you've got so you have like your ARV. So this is like the amount, the buyer MAO. So this is how much money, because at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how much money is a buyer going to spend to buy the house, right? To buy a distressed property. So is basically going to care about the ARV minus the closing costs that he's going to spend, minus the repair costs, minus the
holding costs.
closing cost. The what?
Holding costs.
No, I bundle that in the closing cost, minus the percent of it. Oh yeah, minus the buyer's profit. How much money they're gonna wanna make on the house, right? So roughly speaking, we can assume around 8% of the ARV is gonna cover like, after the, it's gonna cover the buyer's closing costs, the holding costs, the vacancy costs. After, they fix the property up, they're gonna hire a real estate agent, all of that stuff. It's gonna be more or less around 8% of the ARV. And so you can essentially say that your closing costs is going to be 8%, right, times 800,000. So it's going to be about $64,000 on a house like this. Your repair costs are going to be roughly $25 per square feet. It's $25,000. Let's add another. Let's give it like, let's say, that's initial estimate. Let's say like, because it's $25 for cosmetic. Let's say it also needs a new roof on top of that. Let's say about 35 grand for repair costs. And these are just estimates, right? And then your profit. Let's say the buyer wants to make usually about 10% of ARV. Would you say that's about right for Denver, Jonah?
So $80K.
Yeah, $80,000. Okay, and so the buyer MAO is going to be that $800,000 minus $800,000 minus 64,000 minus 35,000 minus 80,000. So $621,000 is going to be the absolute most, for instance, a buyer is going to spend. And so anything less than that, if you were, let's say, offering this to a seller or to an agent, you would try to spend a little bit less. You would try to lock it up lower. You'd try to anchor so that you can make money, because your assignment fee is going to have to be lower than the 621, right? So the ARV is 800,000 and the buyer MAO is 621. So the percentage of ARV that the buyer is going to pay for is going to be 621 minus divided by 800,000, and your percentage of ARV is going to be 77.63%. This is how much a buyer is going to pay, right? And then maybe you're going to want to lock it up, let's say at 600K, to give yourself a little bit of room for error. So that's going to be 75%. So maybe you lock it up at 75%, you sell it to a buyer at like 78%. Sounds crazy, because that's a little bit higher than normally you would tell people to lock up a property in Denver, right, Jonah?
True. Yeah.
Normally you would tell people around what percentage of ARV?
I mean, if it was a normal fixer, I'll be honest, before you did any of that math, I was going to say sell it at 75%, lock it up at 72.5%.
Yeah. That's safe.
And that was because it's highly desirable, small, light cosmetic. So like even then, like that's an even higher percent of ARV than I would have chosen.
Yeah, but the math works out. You're counting, like, because what's your buyer doing? They're doing what I'm showing you in front of you right now. What I'm doing, your buyer is doing this. He's looking and doing this. Your buyer is not going and being like, percentage of ARV, let me just throw my money, right? He's actually has a spreadsheet in front of him. He's like, okay, how much profit am I going to make? How much repair costs roughly am I going? What's my closing cost? And so 75%, 77%. The reason I'm doing this exercise is now let's take a full rehab and let's go and say, your buyer, your ARV for a property like this is going to be, let's say, like the worst part of Denver, 2,500 square foot house. What ARV are you thinking, Jonah?
Maybe even 350,000, 400,000.
Yeah, let's say 400,000, and then let's go about, let's say, $50 per square foot.
Yeah, I would say maybe more than that. I would say like $60
per square foot. Yeah, and so and then we're talking about, now we got to go and we can say that our closing costs is going to be 8% of 400,000. Our repair costs are going to be $60 per square foot times 2,500 square feet, and that's 150K. And the profit is going to be 10% of the ARV, so 0.1 times 400,000. That's 40K. See that? So right off the bat, now I can come in and I can say, all right, so the buyer, MAO, he's going to basically be able to pay 400,000 minus 32K for his closing costs, minus 150K for his repair costs, minus 40K for his profit, $178,000 on this 400,000 ARV house. And I'm going to probably want to lock it up with a little bit of room, a little bit of buffer, never hurt anybody, at about 150K. And so my that's going to basically be 44.5%. And then this is, and I'm trying to do this so that people theoretically understand what's going on here. So people have a conceptual understanding of how the heck do you even lock up deals. So this is, in this case, look at this. This is basically it's a house that needs everything, right? You're talking about, you got to replace the kitchens, the bathrooms, open up the floor plan a little bit, new roof, all of this stuff. And it's not to the studs, but it needs literally everything. You're going to basically be locking it up at 37.5%. You'll sell it for 44.5%. And in this case, in the tiny house in a great area, 75%, you sell it at 78%. That's why we can't tell people, oh, hey, where do I lock up properties in Denver? 60 to 65%. Both of those answers are wrong, right? Because the variation is so massive, right? In some houses, you need to lock them up at 37.5. Some houses, you're going to need to lock them up at 75%, right? And I've initially gotten sparked into calculating this way after I took in several different counties. I took the last 500 houses that sold in the last 6 months, and I looked at the spread in percentage of ARV, and then the extremes went from like 40% all the way to like 75. And I'm like, so these buyers are buying houses all the way from 40% of ARV to 75% of ARV. So it's not 60% in Tampa. What do you mean? So now it's like, oh, that's where it comes from, is because the percentage of ARV, it depends on the condition, the size, and the location. So you're better off just taking your ARV, subtracting the closing costs, repairs, and profit. Now for your market, as you're doing quote unquote market research, after you nail down and you're like, okay, my market has a relatively high ARV. It's around 300K ARV or more. I'm happy with that. Beautiful. You could also do 200K or more, but that means you're going to have, like, for example, in like Dallas, but that means you're going to have to lock up properties, in like the 80K to 110K, whatever. I digress. But once you figure out that, you're happy with like the level of investor activity in your market, and that it's a decently high ARV, then you go and you try to figure out, okay, me trying to lock up deals using this formula, I need to figure out, right, how much, because in general, nationwide, you can say, all right, I'll go 10% profit. I might ask some buyers and survey some buyers. Hey, buyers, do you pay 10%? And do you like 10% of ARV profit? You can also study and talk to other wholesalers and see, are we doing 8%, assuming 8% closing costs? Cool. And then the other thing you want to make sure is true for your market in your repairs is, are we talking like what roughly, what percentage for each of the different conditions, what dollar per square footage am I using for my renovations? So you can use a quick and dirty way to come up with renovations. That's fine. So I usually go $25 to $30 a square foot for a cosmetic house. For like a more like full rehab, I can go like, $60, $65 per square foot. One thing you could also do is you could always do $25 to $30 per square foot for cosmetic. And then just if there's anything on top of that that's major repairs, you can just add those line items. So you could do $25, like if it's a full rehab, you could do $25 per square foot for the cosmetic portion of the rehab. plus $10,000 for a roof, plus 15K for AC, plus 25K for plumbing, right? But that would involve you kind of really understanding the scope of work needed on that particular home. Or you could just slap a dollar per square foot on there. It's up to you. And I would talk to and see how your buyers are doing it, how other wholesalers who are selling deals in your market are doing it. But once you get a good idea of how to approximate your repairs, you just plug it in this formula, and you can have a less pixelated idea of how to lock up properties.
So let's talk a little bit
yeah.
about, no, this was really good. I think this is amazing. I like this. You're convincing me to do it this way, because I like the fact that you could sell that for 77% of ARV. And I also like the fact that like even like that would seem insanely low to lock up anything at 37.5% of ARV, but it makes sense if it's huge and needs everything and it's like a garbage area where there's crime and stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? So let's talk about the pieces of information someone
Right,
would
but
need to get.
before we get to do that, I just want one more thing to click in people's minds. The repair costs, like you're spending $150,000 in repair on this property. Guys, the Home Depot doesn't care if you're buying materials to fix a house in a fancy area or in a developing area. They'll sell you the stuff. They don't care. So the dollar per square footage, like for repairs, doesn't depend on your area at all. You know what I mean? So like if you have two houses that need the exact same repairs, one has an ARV of 800,000 and the other has an ARV of 300,000, you're still spending 25K to renovate each property. But now you have a way more spread in the one with higher ARV, so you could lock it up at a way higher percentage of ARV. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Guys, when he says the location, it's not changing the repairs, it's changing the ARV, which
It's
is
like the
making it much less.
desirability of the location, proven that the condition and the size is exactly the same.
Which totally makes sense. So what price per square feet repairs should I get? What numbers should I get for my market? And what extra big item tickets should I find out how much they cost? And
Right,
then
right.
how do I find those things? So what are they and how do I find them?
Right. So, for instance, what you could do is whenever you're trying to research like major, like how do you value like repair costs, there's obviously like different levels of accuracy which you can do this, and there's some like accepted industry ways of doing this. But I'd say one important thing is you want to go ahead and try and talk to wholesalers like Jonah or people who are really successful in that particular market, and just ask them like what dollar per square footage you use, or maybe have a conversation with your buyers, right? The buyers that you're talking to, ask them, roughly for a cosmetic property, what dollar per square do you use, a dollar per square footage, like what do you use, right? Because I'd say like in general you can't go wrong with just going cosmetic, $25 to $30, and this is nationwide, except places like California. Obviously, this could be much
If you're
higher.
in the
But I
Bay
would just
Area, 2.5x all of it repair
yeah,
wise.
yeah.
That's just is
So
what it is. But
yeah,
Sacramento is going to be something like
This
this.
this is very accurate to Sacramento. This is
Yeah.
this is right around exactly where we use in Sacramento.
yeah. So what you could do is, if it's a cosmetic property, you go $25, $30 per square foot, and then times the square footage of the property, and then for let's say like a full rehab, you got two choices, right? You could either try and use like a fixed dollar per square footage amount, let's say 55 to or like 60 to $65 per square foot. But if you want a more accurate way to do that, because like now I just made things super pixelated. Like it's like, okay, so Mahmoud, you're telling me something's either going to be cosmetic or it's going to be a full rehab. There's nothing in between. Like that seems kind of false, right? So it's like, yeah, you can go a little bit more accurate. What I like to do is I like to, instead of rehab doing $60 to $65 per square foot, I like to do I like to do the $25 to $30 per square foot for the cosmetic, so times the square footage, plus any major repairs. So plus like, you know, any electrical, the cost of any electrical repairs, or the cost of any plumbing repairs, foundation issues, HVAC, or roof, right? And so that means actually calling general contractors in your market and asking, hey, like roughly, what do you think, you know, an HVAC for a house like this is going to cost? Or roughly, this is the square footage of, you know, a house, or this is the type of house. Roughly kind of give me a ballpark of how I can, you know, quick and dirty estimate roof repair, a roof replacement, right? And then when you do the 4-point inspection and stuff, if you have a property that's being listed by an agent, usually like they'll tell you kind of like they might come with a quote for like foundation issues or plumbing issues. But this stuff you kind of, you know, need to approximate it a little bit, and you can kind of guess a little bit on this and kind of give yourself a buffer for when the inspector goes during your inspection period, and then try to get, you know, electrical repairs. So you could do it like this, or you could just go straight up, just be like $60 to $65 per square foot. I like this method a little bit better. This is our calculator that we use at in SnapFlip, our company. So we've got like the buy price. So we basically go in and we say, all right, this is like the square footage of our house. So, you know, let's say 1,000 square feet. And then we just pick the dollar per square footage that we're going to essentially go with. We just have them all built in here just in case we want to change it up. You have the ARV, and then, you know, you have like the dollar per square footage for like the cosmetic, and now you have your major roof repairs. So like, look, like if a roof is yes, then we add 10K for it in Tampa. If HVAC is yes, 5,000. Water heater, 5,000. Electrical, 10,000. If it's in a sinkhole, 50,000. Foundation issues, roughly 25 grand. And then you're just subtracting your closing costs, which is 8%. We started adding 2% carrying costs as well, just to be a little bit safe, but I usually just bundle that into the 8%. But we're just trying to get a little bit, you know, more conservative with our number. And then you have your desired flip profit, which is going to be like your 10%. And then there's your dispo price, desired wholesale fee, and then buy price. And you can actually compare it with the percentage of ARV, right? If you want to go like 50, 55% and see kind of like how, what the differences are. And then you can kind of like average those together to come up with a number. But yeah, we definitely try to use the Rehab estimator just because it's more, like I said, it's just more, it's more accurate. It's less pixelated of a metric.
Can we get that? How do we give it to the people? Like, is there like an email list that would allow you to have access to it maybe?
Yeah. We have a SnapFlip newsletter that, we can give people access to. We give out, calculators, other helpful information, agent scripts, buyer scripts that people can subscribe to get on our email list. We predominantly focus on Florida, so a lot of the stuff you see will be Florida specific. This is kind of more general, but yeah, I'd be happy to later hand over a copy of our email list so that
I'll put it in the chat eventually. It's just This is a pretty cool calculator. I really like it a lot. I love your method. It's a very interesting method. I like it a lot in the sense that it probably makes it where you we know we can see it. What are you? Oh, okay. Is he like mad at you?
When he was probably trying to get an ARV of something right now, and I'm over here messing with his calculator. So.
I like it. So I love it a lot. So I think that's pretty darn good in the sense of getting somebody started on it. In the end, guys, what's going to require you to do is do a lot of background work. If you want to do dispositions, this is what it requires. It requires you to actually find out how your buyers are calculating ARV. ARV percentages are good when you just have nothing else to go off of. But I like this method a lot when we're talking about actually becoming a really good dispo and being able to argue numbers and stuff like that. Now, Mahmoud, in the last 8 minutes, there's no way you're doing that whole calculator, though, every single time you get sent a property that might work, right? Or do you literally every single time put it in the calculator for every single property you're sent?
Takes like 3 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. So he does put it in. Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it.
And it's just, you know, it's basically, the idea is really just trying to, you want your offer to, you want your evaluation of the property and your prediction of what a buyer will pay to kind of just land as correctly on target as possible. And that's why kind of being able to look at things a little bit deeper definitely helps. But for those who are listening, I'd say, you know, use Privy is a great tool to figure out, like the target spots of your market and, you know, where your investors are going to be buying.
You can
And
answer that
then,
afterwards.
yeah. And then also try to kind of figure out, like, you know, what percentage of closing costs are going to be in your market, or, you know, how what is, you know, the dollars per square footage of the different bucket rehab and condition buckets going to be in your market, and then roughly how much a buyer is going to want to pay in or get essentially in profit. And that's usually in many markets going to be around 10% of the ARV. But yeah, and you know, you can also go into the into Privy and look at, you know, and just like I showed you guys in the beginning, look up the percentage of ARV that buyers bought properties, and you can obviously, like, go ahead and put them all in a spreadsheet and try and figure out the averages, and that stuff is cool too. And you can kind of compare it with this method. But my personal opinion is going to be just to use the just that simple equation. So
can you, I think you broke it down already, but can you break down the 8% closing costs again? Just real quick for somebody.
yeah,
I
it's
know
like,
what it is, but
it's like it's a few different things. It's like 2.5%, depending on the market. Like, the, you know, after you list it, it's the 2.5% for like the listing agent, and then the buyer's agent, and then you have the closing costs when you pick up the property, any miscellaneous fees, and anything to add to that, Jonah? I mean, that's about it.
it's
Holding
mainly
costs.
realtor fees. So
Yeah.
it's 3% on each side. For most markets, it's 3%. California's 2.5%. I don't know about Florida, but and Denver's technically 2.8%. So if you want to get, it's almost always between 2.5 and 3, depending on the market. So in California, I would do 7%, not 8%. But it's realtor fees, which is 6%, and then 2% is for things like staging, like if there's an extra little bit of holding costs, if there's just like generally fees that you got to like fix that little dink that accidentally didn't happen, your contractor screwed up, or like kind of like buffer room stuff, fees, closing costs. That's the other one. It's like, it's mainly closing costs, staging fees, and then little miscellaneous things, and realtor fees is that 8% is what I would say. Cause you got 2 sets of closing costs
Yeah.
also, right? So that's what that 8% is for,
Yeah.
generally speaking. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, man, that was like a beautiful intro into like how people should really be calculating their numbers, understanding what their deal will actually sell for. Cause I agree. I like the percent of ARV. I still use it. What I do in my head, and it's a little bit more inaccurate, but it's a little bit quicker, but it's not as, with that calculator, it's not any quicker. In my head, what I do is I'll be like, generally for a normal fixer, right down the middle in a normal neighborhood, or in this neighborhood, it's about 70%. Then if there's anything big, roof, I'm minus 10K. That's how we were taught by Keegley, right? Which
Yeah.
is a little bit less accurate than this. And it's a really quick if you don't have a calculator. But if you have that calculator, it's really, then it's just as quick anyway. So it's a beautiful thing. Mahmoud, what before I let you go, because I know we have 3 more minutes and everybody has to hop off, what can we do for you as a community, right? We've got 17 people on here. What does SnapFlip need? What do you need, my man? Will people get this calculator if they subscribe to the email list? How do we get the calculator? Let's do that stuff. Like, how can we help you out now?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely send over the calculator. People can get on our email list. Really, how people can help is just we're always trying to network with people that are doing acquisitions in Florida. And that's why we hand out so much content to help people, like tools like calculator scripts to help people get better at acquisitions and locking up deals. We want to be able to help you sell your deals, to joint venture with you on properties. We've got over 2,000 vetted cash buyers all over the state of Florida that are buying now. They're not stale buyers, and we're constantly trying to improve that. We do around 5 to 7 deals every single week, and we're just trying to watch that number go up higher. And it's all through connecting with people through joint ventures, connecting with agents, wholesalers. So just being part of our community would be awesome, and help add value to you guys. You add value to us, and yeah.
Do
Awesome.
you have
So
a sign up link where people can go and get on your email list, or how do people get on your email
I
list?
already know one of them is deals@snapflip.net.
Deals
That's
at
one.
snapflip.net. That's where to send us deals. And can I get do you have an email for your people that I can send you the maybe we can pin it in the comments later,
Yeah,
the
tell me,
newsletter
what
link.
is it? What are you about? How does the newsletter work? Do you have a link?
Yeah, I'll ask John for the link, and then I'll send it
If
over
you
to you,
send
and
me
you
a
can.
link, I'll edit the description of this live and I'll put it in the description so people can send it, right? But deals at snapflip.net, that's where you can do it. That's where you can email deals. Who should they connect with? Like, is there a number that they can connect with if they are doing it in Tampa and they want to send you guys deals, or is it just the email, or is there anything else?
Yeah. Send it to our email, and that point we can exchange further contact information. But our team is extremely responsive on the email, and happy to connect with everybody. Happy to even help give people buy numbers on their deals in exchange for a couple days of exclusivity on the deals. We're out here, we're active, and we're just trying to help people get deals done in Florida.
And then is there any way to reach you specifically? Like, if they want to add value in a way that we haven't thought of right now, like how
Yeah.
would someone reach out to you?
Yeah, you can message me, send me a DM on Instagram. Be happy to connect. It's at real Mahmoud Issa.
At real Mahmoud Issa, deals at snapflip.net. But I'm just going to put this up here one more time, guys. Hit him up on Instagram if you have value to give him. Don't just ask him a question. Give him something of value. I don't want you people hitting up Mahmoud unless you actually have something valuable. Do you have a deal? Do you have some advice? Do you have something to actually offer? If you don't, then just show up on Cash Flow and Coffee Mondays at 9:15 MST with me and my boy Tyler here, and we'll just answer your questions. We'll answer all your questions, guys. But if you actually have value, something to give to Mahmoud, a deal, whatever the hell else he's looking for. I don't even know. I think it's just deals, right? Go to deals@snapflip.com or .net. So Mahmoud, thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you doing this for the people and for us, just because like we have pretty good market research, but we know you're like the king at it. And so I really appreciate you, my man. I so much appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Love it. Guys, coffee and cash flow. God damn it. Cash flow and coffee this Monday, 9:15 MST. If you're trying to just have questions answered, send your questions, show up, ask the questions live, and you'll get your questions answered really quickly. If not, go onto Instagram and you can ask me questions and I'll be like, that's a great question. I'll answer that on Monday, right? Give Mahmoud value, please. He just took an hour of his very, very valuable time to teach all of you guys how to really like actually find out what people are buying stuff at in your market. This works in any market. Mahmoud, I appreciate you so much. Any last words?
No, we just hope everybody kind of just stays on top of it, crushes it, grinds, and gets their business off the ground. Very happy to have helped you all.
Awesome. Tyler, any last words?
I think a lot of that information is going to be very useful for everyone watching. Make sure everyone takes that and actually puts it to action. Don't just watch these videos to make you feel like you're doing work. Take this action and actually do it. and you're gonna know your numbers better than everyone in your market for the most part.
This live will be up. It will be on my YouTube channel. You can refer to it whenever you want to know exactly how to do market research. Guys, I appreciate all of you for coming on. We got 21 people. We hit the max right when I'm about to press the button to end this live, but whatever. I love all of you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you, Tyler. I will see y'all next time.